The King's Invitation. In a distant kingdom surrounded by lush forests and snow-capped mountains, there lived a great and just king. His palace sat atop a high hill, its golden spires gleaming in the sunlight. The king was known for his wisdom and generosity, but what set him apart was his love for the people of his kingdom. One day, the king sent out messengers to every corner of the land with a special invitation. The scrolls they carried read, "You are invited to the royal banquet. Come as you are, for the king himself has prepared a feast in your honor." The messengers went far and wide, delivering the king's invitation to peasants, merchants, farmers, and nobles alike. Some received the message with joy, while others scoffed at the idea of attending. The invitation rejected. In a small village, a man named Abram read the invitation but frowned. "I'm too busy," he muttered, glancing at the plow in his hands. "I have fields to tend to. The king will understand." Nearby, a merchant named Daria laughed as she held the scroll. "I can't leave my shop," she said. "Business is booming and I can't risk losing customers for some feast." Others in the village made similar excuses. Some were too busy, others doubted the sincerity of the invitation, and a few simply didn't care. The humble farmer. In the same village, there lived a poor farmer named Elias. His clothes were tattered, his hands rough from years of hard labor. When a messenger handed him the scroll, Elias stared at it in disbelief. "Me? Invited to the king's banquet?" he asked. "Yes," the messenger replied with a smile. "The invitation is for everyone." Elias hesitated. "But look at me. I'm dirty, I have no fine clothes, and I wouldn't know how to behave in a palace. Surely the king doesn't want someone like me at his table." The messenger placed a hand on Elias's shoulder. The king said, "Come as you are. He will provide everything you need." Tears filled Elias's eyes. "Then I will go." The journey to the palace. Elias set off on the journey, walking miles through forests and valleys. Along the way, he encountered others who had received the invitation. Some, like him, were eager to attend. Others had started the journey but turned back, discouraged by the difficulties of the road. At one point, Elias met a man sitting by the roadside. "Why did you stop?" Elias asked. "The journey is too hard," the man replied. "And what if the king changes his mind when he sees us? What if we're not good enough?" Elias thought for a moment and then said, "The king wouldn't have invited us if he didn't want us there. I trust his word. Come with me." Encouraged, the man rose, and together they continued the journey. The banquet hall. When Elias and the others arrived at the palace gates, they were greeted by royal attendants who washed their feet and gave them robes of pure white. For the first time, Elias felt clean and worthy. As they entered the banquet hall, they were awestruck. The tables stretched as far as the eye could see, laden with the finest food and drink. The king himself stood at the head of the table, his face radiating kindness and joy. "Welcome," the king said, his voice warm and inviting. "You are my honored guests." Elias and the others sat down, overwhelmed by the king's generosity. As they ate and drank, the king spoke to each of them, calling them by name and assuring them of his love. The lesson. This story reflects Jesus' parable of the wedding feast in Matthew chapter 22, verses 1 through 14. The king represents God who invites all people to his heavenly banquet. Many, like Abram and Daria, reject the invitation because they are preoccupied with worldly matters. Others, like Elias, humbly accept, trusting in the king's promise to provide everything they need. The white robes symbolize the righteousness given to believers through Jesus Christ. Isaiah chapter 61 verse 10, Revelation chapter 19 verse 8. Just as Elias couldn't make himself worthy, we cannot earn our place in God's kingdom. It is a gift of grace freely given to those who respond to his call. The journey to the palace represents the Christian walk. It is not always easy, but those who persevere will be rewarded. The story also reminds us that God's invitation is for everyone, regardless of status, past mistakes, or doubts. The call. Have you responded to the king's invitation? He calls you to come as you are, to lay aside your burdens, and to trust in his promise. The feast is ready, and the king awaits you with open arms. Will you accept his invitation?